Welcome back. Tomorrow, March 8th, is International Women's Day. It's a day that recognizes the contributions and achievements made by women around the world. Here in our region, 2 women have made it their mission to give a voice to the Chinese women of the Delta, whose selfless dedication built strong families and shaped their community.
Your reporter covering Sacramento County, Tori Apodaca, brings us their story.
This is my parents, my mother and my father. They married in 1930. My father owned a gambling house and my mother ran a department store.
Corliss Lee shares fond memories of her family growing up in the Chinese community of Locke. The town of wood frame structures built more than a century ago by the Chinese and for the Chinese sits along the Sacramento Delta. Its picturesque look appears frozen in time. Looking back at her childhood, Corliss credits her grandmother, a Chinese immigrant who raised 10 children, her adoptive mother, a successful businesswoman, and older sister, a project aeronautics engineer, for showing her the way.
I was very fortunate to have these women be so powerful and to break barriers along the way. And it taught me to be able to not be afraid of working in a man's world.
There's also her aunt, Ruth Jang.
She's the one that's 102 now. She served in the World War II.
And it's through her upbringing that drew inspiration.
The experience I had with women in the Delta really was the impetus for me to start studying the other women in the Delta, because I knew how strong our family was.
It didn't take long for Corliss to team up with film director Min Zhou. Together, they produced a documentary featuring the Chinese women of the Delta, who went unrecognized for far too long.
And the Chinese culture is such a man-dominated culture, and women largely were ignored.
Min, who's from Santa Clara, first discovered Locke while on a tour of the historical town.
Standing on Main Street, I feel like, oh my God, this is a wonderful land. It's like a time capsule taking me back to 19th century.
Through her research, she found that no matter their backgrounds, the Chinese women of the Delta made sacrifices for the greater good.
The World War II veterans, the teachers, the farmers, housewives, even though they are housewives, they care about the community. They support the other poorer family, even though they were poor too.
Often putting others first and living as second-class citizens.
Their voices are very little, very weak, because nobody cares about their voices. Nobody heard about their story. Nobody even want to bother themselves to sit down to hear about their stories.
And it's through their documentary, Min and Corliss aim to right a wrong.
Here in this land of freedom, and I think, yes, I need to tell their stories. I need to give them a voice.
I think it's important that we tell the stories so that we know to celebrate their achievements. They were pioneers in so many ways.
Their documentary is being featured at the California Museum on March 22nd at 1 o'clock.
So rich in history, Min and Corliss will host a documentary screening and will be available for questions from the audience. Should be pretty